Hello guys, today you're going to see how I designed and built my latest PCB. I will show you all the steps this project went through, from the idea to the finished board, so stick till the end. The main idea behind it came from a friend of mine who is building a type of RC plane called Flying Wing. So he asked me to help with adding some RGB strip to it, that way he could fly it in complete darkness and still be able to see where it is in the sky. Here are the base requirements I've got to begin with. First, we have the ability to drive about 4 meters of addressable RGB strip. Then it should be able to work with LiPo batteries in 2S or higher configuration. And also, he must be able to control it via the plain RC remote. My initial idea was to use WS2811 LED strip, but looking at its datasheet, I realized it would be impractical due to its high wattage per meter, so I stepped down to WS2812B, which consumes about 1/4 of the power. We will be using a strip with 100 LEDs per meter, which has rated power consumption of 7.5 watts per meter, 15 volts. So we are looking at about 1.5 amps per meter, or roughly 6 amps at 5 volts for the whole 4 meters, as will go on the plane. So to start with, we will need a buck converter to step down the voltage from the battery to the 5 volts the LED strip needs. That has to be capable of outputting at least 6 amps. There are a lot of cheap and widely available modules that can do that, but they are bulky and heavy, and our design should be as small, light and efficient as possible. Having these requirements in mind, the obvious solution is to design synchronous step-down DC-DC converter with GaN FETs to shrink the inductor size by taking advantage of a higher switching frequency and boost the efficiency as much as possible. After several hours of searching for controller IC, I landed on the MP2918 from Monolithic Power Systems. It has a lot of great features, but most importantly, it is compatible with gallium nitride FETs and supports switching frequency of up to 1 MHz. I paired it with two EPC 2055s, which I later replaced with EPC 2204 due to availability issues. They are extremely capable transistors and absolute overkill for this application. But anyway, that's part of the fun. Each of them can carry up to 29 amps continuously, the drain source voltage is up to 100 volts, and the gate charge is basically non-existent at 5.7 nanocoulombs. Then, for controlling the ARGB strip, receiving commands and other stuff, I went with the simplest possible option, the good old ATMEGA 328P, which is the controller used in the Arduino Uno and Nano. To program it, we have two choices. Either carry around another Arduino to use it as a programmer every time we need to change something, or implement UART to USB interface. So I've decided to use this CP2102N IC, which does exactly that, and also has internal 3.3 volt linear regulator, as well as some GPIOs that can be configured, for example, as indication for receiving or transmitting data. There I've added a jumper for isolating the USB plus 5 volts from the internal 5 volt rail of the device to avoid unwanted current flow. So if you want to program the device while it's battery powered, the jumper can just be left open. Next we have something that came to my mind as a last minute idea, but I think it turned out great. So I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if there is a mode in which the RGB color or intensity could change depending on the height of the plane. So I've included this LPS25H MEMS barometer from ST, which as a added bonus comes with built-in temperature sensor. The sensor is extremely low power and runs on 3.3 volts, which means the 3.3 volt internal regulator of the CP2102 could be used instead of adding external one. Also, we will have to consider that when connecting it to the ATMEGA, as it uses 5 volt logic levels, which will fry the sensor if connected directly. So to make it work, I will be using this level shifter. There is also an optional 5 volt linear regulator, as I realized there might be certain applications where the output of the DC-DC converter might be set to more than 5 volts. I have also added two buttons along the reset to facilitate functions such as altitude zeroing, manual mode selection and others. There you can see the programming header which can be used to burn a bootloader to the Atmega. And last but not least, the voltage divider for sensing the battery voltage, which will be used to monitor the battery and prevent over discharge. Before we continue, I'm happy to announce the sponsor of this project, PCBWay. They feature a variety of manufacturing services, including many types of rigid and flexible PCBs, CNC machining, 3D printing, and many others. And that's why they can be the one-stop solution for our projects. Here you can upload your designs, specify your requirements, and get an instant quote for your project. Their PCBs start as low as $5 for 10 pieces and can ship worldwide. Also, at the time of making this video, their 8th project design contest is live. There are 3 design teams and a lot of prizes. The contest is open until the end of January 2026, so go check out the rules and submit your project. You can find the link to their website in the video description. Here you can see how nicely packaged the ports arrived. As always, the quality is exceptional and the combination of black solder mask and gold finish looks just amazing. Here is the time to tell you that this is the second and hopefully the last revision of this board, as there were some issues with the first one. Again, one big thank you to PCBWay for supporting the development of this project by providing all the PCBs. Now let's continue with the assembly of the board. Since there weren't much changes in the design, I didn't order a new stencil. So I'm going to use the old one for the most parts, and then I will finish the assembly by soldering the remaining parts one by one. To start, I will make a frame to secure the PCB to the table, and then I will align and secure the stencil over it. Next, I take a spatula and spread some soldering paste with it. At this point, using a bigger one makes more sense, but that's what I have on hand. After ensuring there is solder paste in all the holes, we can carefully lift up the stencil and begin placing components one by one. On this board there are about 90 components, which I have to find in a big pile of plastic bags and then place them one by one, so I'll save you the suffering by speeding up the assembly. While you watch me assemble the PCB, I wanted to say a few things. The first one is that I'm launching an online shop where you will find a gradually increasing selection of tools, parts and consumables you see me use here, alongside some refurbished by me devices. If you want to check it out, there is a link to it in the description. Also, I wanted to say a huge thank you to my supporters on Patreon, James the Mat and Michael. If you too want to support the channel, the link to my Patreon is down below. Here is something small I wanted to address, no pun intended. This extremely tiny 0-1005 resistor, which is connected in series between the controller and the gate of the bottom transistor. I picked this package because it was the only one available that could fit there, as I realized that these resistors would be needed only after testing the first revision with the oscilloscope. I then modified the board I had by adding the gate resistors, and the result was great, so they went into the second revision. But I didn't want to change the layout at all, as I know it's a big deal when working with GAN FETs and relatively high switching frequencies, so I needed to somehow fit a resistor between the already tightly packed components. And here we've got the finished board. I think it looks great, but will be even better after some cleaning. Now, since the ATTEN I soldered is brand new and has nothing on it, we will need to burn a bootloader to make it programmable via the USB UART interface. To do so, we will need to configure the board, which means soldering the jumper J2 in closed position and removing the R1 resistor. Once that's done, we can use any other Arduino board as a programmer to burn the bootloader. Here you can see how the pins should be connected. With the bootloader burned, now we need to solder back the R1 resistor and open the J2 jumper by removing the solder from it. If you haven't placed it already, now is the time to place the jumper on the 2-pin header, which is used to isolate the USB 5 volts from the 5 volts coming from the buck converter. The last thing left to be configured is the CP2102, which is not necessary, but it would be great to have a visual indication when there is a UART communication going on. For that purpose, we will need this free-to-use software from Silicon Labs called Simplicity Studio. Here we will need to make a new express configuration project and select the exact IC we're using, which is this one. Then select alternate function for GPIO0 and GPIO1 and try to upload it. Sometimes it interferes with the Arduino IDE, so make sure to close it, and also you might have to connect and disconnect the board a couple of times to be detected properly. And once that's done, we can finally try to upload some code to the Arduino and see how it goes. Here is the code I wrote just to test most of the intended functionality of the board. We're skipping the part with the remote, as I don't have remote and receiver at the moment. So reading the battery voltage, the temperature and pressure from the sensor, and talking to the RGB strip. So let's upload it and hook up a battery and the LED strip for a quick test. Having in mind that the strip has 100 diodes per meter and we're initializing 450 of them, we should be lighting up about 4.5 meters of it, which is more than enough for the project. The way I wrote the code is that the LEDs turn on one by one by making a wave effect and then turn off all at once. That's a great way to prevent overheating when the strip is still rolled up, and also to test some of the parameters of the power supply. So here you can see most of the measurements I've made on the DC-DC converter. Let's begin by observing the output voltage ripple during ramp up of the current. So as you can see, for most of the time it's sitting below 15 millivolts, which I think is very good. Here are all the other measurements that I took with the oscilloscope while underwater. Interesting one here is the response of the DC-DC converter when the load suddenly drops by about 15 times, which happens when all 450 LEDs are lit and in the next program cycle they are all turned off at once. The spike is about 60 millivolts, which really surprised me as I expected to see much more. This shows how fast the controller is able to compensate and prevent any meaningful overvoltage of the output. Here are also the top and bottom gate waveforms when underwater, which appear to be super clean and with minimal overshoot. Up to this point, I think everything on the electrical side looks pretty good. So let's see how the thermals turned out. You can see how hot the roll has become only after 4 or 5 short runs. But let's ignore this for now and focus on the board. As you can see, the hottest part of the whole converter circuit is the current sense resistor at about 15 degrees over ambient, and the transistors are just chilling there, barely heating up underwater. This shows us that there is a minimal energy loss to heat, which is always a great thing, especially with this project where every reduction in losses counts. So lastly, let's try to calculate the efficiency of the converter while standby and underwater. Now I've opened the jumper feeding 5 volts to the MCU and the other ICs so we can determine how much they all consume and take this into account. So they consume a combined total of 24 milliamps at 5 volts. Now with the jumper closed, we can see that the board at no volt consumes about 12 milliamps from the battery. Now with the LED strip attached but not turned on, we are consuming about 108 milliamps from the battery. And at full load from the LED strip, we got 1.54 amps drawn from the battery. I think that the battery voltage might be dropping under volt, so we'll test this as well. But before that, we'll repeat the same measurements, but this time on the output side of the converter. So with the LED strip attached at standby, we've got 234 milliamps. And under full load, we've got about 3.42 amps. The voltage of the output is always kept at 5.04 volts. And lastly, for our calculations, we will need the battery voltage under volt, which drops to 13.21 volts. So we got at no load roughly 160 milliwatts in and about 120 milliwatts out, which equals to 75% efficiency. And under full load we have 20.34 watts in and 17.36 watts out, which equals to about 85% efficiency. I think this result is amazing, considering this is my first DC-DC converter I've ever built. There are some things that could be tweaked to get a bit more efficiency, but I will leave it as is for now. And this basically wraps it up for today. Of course, there will be a video when the RC plane is ready, where you'll see not only the finished code, but what this board was all about, so stay tuned. All the files of this project are available for everybody on my Patreon page. Please let me know if you're interested in buying the already assembled PCB or even just the bare one. That's all for today. As always, thanks for watching. Till the next time, bye.